I can't believe they let this happen. Kids are in danger, sneaky trades before banks collapse. I mean, you know what the worst thing is when you warn someone about the possibility of our economy spiraling down? It's not that they don't believe you. A ton of people still want to believe that everything's okay, and that's cool. But the worst reaction is that they think you're crazy just for even entertaining the notion that the United States could possibly ever face a time like 2008 again. But you know what? They're right. Because with our current trajectory, 2008 is going to feel more like the good old days. We're also in the midst of a banking crisis. Although it's a good thing that some executives of big banks were able to sell off their stock shares just before the collapse. Wait, doesn't that sound a little fishy? Well, it sure smells like it because there's already an investigation that's being done on one of the three big banks that just crashed. Can you guys guess which one it is? AI is certainly being used by a lot of people these days to try and create fake images and articles. Although what is scary is that scammers are also now realizing its potential, and I urge you to stay until the end because you do not want to be at the other end of one of these phone call scams. And while the government continues to tout a strong economy, a whistleblower is saying that the United States has now become the land for smuggled children. Now, we got a lot of crazy stuff to talk about today, so let's not waste any more time. And for the very best way to invest in gold or silver, check out the links down below in the description of this video. Now, I'm addressing this first since it's urgent that you guys are informed about new scams that these scammers are coming out with and that they continue to deploy on innocent Americans. So here's the story. Jennifer DeStefano received a phone call one day. It was the voice of her 15-year-old daughter yelling and crying that she had messed up. Panic set in immediately, and then she asked, what was wrong? Then the other voice came on, this of a guy with a deep voice saying that her daughter had been kidnapped and that if she called the police, she would never see her daughter again. Now, just listening to the story, this is a nightmare for all parents, especially when you feel powerless to help your children. But the story has a catch. The call was not as it seems. Her daughter was actually safe, and the man who was asking for a ridiculous amount of money was no more than a scammer. Now, you might ask, how did they even get her daughter's voice, right? Well, the quick answer is AI. So Haney Farid, a computer sciences professor over at the University of California, Berkeley, he said this, quote, "A reasonably good clone can be created with under a minute of audio, and some are claiming that even a few seconds might be enough. The trend over the past few years has been less and less data is needed to make a compelling fake," end quote. So if you have a short clip online and your voice is heard on there, that might just be enough for a scammer to fake your voice on the phone. Hey, I'm just saying, we got to be updated on these things. You might not necessarily be able to stop it, but at least you're aware that these scams exist. And I really want you guys to be safe out there because these scammers will definitely run your wallets dry. Also, watch out for the scammers in the comment section down below. Now, this also shows just how dangerous artificial intelligence can be. Were you guys aware that Warren Buffett likened it to the creation of the atom bomb? You know who showed him a quick lesson on ChatGPT? Bill Gates. No wonder Buffett said that AI is as bad as the atom bomb. Now, I'm just kidding, of course, right? But maybe I'm not kidding. Is AI a threat to humanity? Are any of you guys worried about it? Now, speaking of worried, I'm a little bit worried as to how U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra, he isn't aware of the migrant children that have been allegedly disappearing in our country. Check this out.
The Times actually identified that there is a stat that's 85,000 children that HHS lost immediate contact with them once they were placed in sponsorship. So that's my first question. Is that number accurate? Because once HHS does the vetting, places them with sponsors, the next question is, do you know where they are, even for those first 30 days? And then when you get to day 31, do we know where they are? And if I can push this a little farther, if they don't show up for their first hearing, is someone from HHS checking on them? Because at that point, they're lost.
And Senator, every week I get briefed by my team, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week, on this situation with the unaccompanied migrant kids and where we stand. I've never heard that number of 85,000. I don't know where it comes from.
Okay.
And so I can't attest. I would say it doesn't sound at all to be realistic. And what we do is we try to follow up as best we can with these kids. Congress has given us certain authorities. Our authorities essentially end the moment we have found a suitable sponsor to place that child with. We try to do some follow-up, but neither the child or the sponsor is actually obligated to follow up with us. And we make every effort to follow up with them as best we can.
A government official who doesn't know what's going on? Now, if I had $1 for every single one, right? Now, I'm sorry, guys, just a little bit frustrated because these are kids that we're talking about here, and he doesn't even know what's happening. To make matters worse, a whistleblower has just come out to confirm the figures that Senator James Lankford is saying. Check this out.
My goal is to inspire action to safeguard the lives of migrant children, including the staggering 85,000 that are missing. Today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers.
That was Miss Tara Lee Rodas, and she's claiming that this has been going on for a while now, with the United States government acting as some sort of a middleman. She also added this.
For nearly a decade, unaccompanied children have been suffering in the shadows. And I have to confess, I knew nothing about their suffering until 2021, when I volunteered to help the Biden administration with the crisis at the southern border. As part of Operation Artemis, I was deployed to the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site in California to help HHS, Office of Refugee Resettlement, reunite children with sponsors in the United States. I thought I was going to help place children in loving homes. Instead, I discovered that children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends when ORR delivers a child to a sponsor. Some sponsors are criminals and traffickers and members of transnational criminal organizations. Some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income. This is why we are witnessing an explosion of labor trafficking.
Now, it's not just under the Biden administration. Rhoda said that this has been happening for around a decade now. That's a lot of administrations that have not acted on this. That is, if it was found to be true. Now, I know for a fact that I'm not going to be able to find the numbers online. These are the things that you actually need to have boots on the ground to understand. However, I'm not sure why this whistleblower would lie either. What are your thoughts on this? Now, moving on, I hope that we don't see any lies with the investigation of First Republic Bank and their executives. What's the reason for this investigation? Well, the Securities and Exchange Commission found some trades that were done ahead of the government seizure and sale of the bank to JP Morgan Chase. What do I mean by that? Oh, just insider trading. This is a day after Senator Elizabeth Warren blasted their executives for their mismanagement. In a letter sent to the bank's former CEO, Warren wrote this, quote, "You owe your customers and the public an explanation for the decisions that resulted in a costly failure of your bank. The primary cause of the collapse appears to be complacency, incompetency, and mismanagement by you and other bank executives," end quote. Now, it's also now come out that millions of dollars worth of stocks were sold within January to March of this year, right before the bank's collapse. Do you guys think that this was insider trading? And if it was, will anyone be held accountable? Or is it just going to be forgotten yet again and swept under the rug? Now, here's something that is hard to forget. We continue to see that these guys were making profits. Meanwhile, we're worried about our money. Our expenses continue to rise while our cash flow remains stagnant and weak. This shouldn't be the case for us though, especially since there are ways to make multiple streams of income. You guys are aware that side hustles and small businesses can do that, right? Home-based businesses, online businesses. And when it comes to investments, there's plenty of good opportunities opening up in the real estate market, and the same goes for the stock market. And it's also not a bad idea to consider investments in precious metals like gold and silver. Now, I understand that all of these different things, they might seem a little bit intimidating, but with a little bit of guidance, a little bit of studying, it's all attainable. Now, if you guys want to learn more, feel free to drop me some comments down below. Now, before I go, guys, please do me a favor, big like for the video and share this video with a friend. Appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'm gonna see you on the next one.